my personal favorite show intro music, and it happens to be for our show, Yesshift. I'm Dan Schinder.
And I'm Steven Schinder.
And we're thrilled to have first-time offender David Cross with us to talk about all kinds of really neat stuff. Welcome, David. Thank you for taking time.
How are you?
Yeah, we appreciate it. We're great. How are you?
Very good. Yeah. It's not my best time of the day. I'm best, first thing in the morning. It's 8 o'clock at night here.
Yeah, that's okay. Next time we'll trade and we'll do this at like 5 a.m. our time.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, we're perfectly fine with that. We've done it before. Cool. Right. So you've got an exciting album out, and while Steve kind of talks about it, I'm going to bring up the artwork for everybody to see, which is brilliant.
Right. So this is an amazing album. It gets heavy and it's really full of energy. You've got new tracks and new recordings of King Crimson classics. So I'll just list the tracks real quick. Nurse Insane, Calamity, Nowhere, Exiles, Karma Gain, Over Your Shoulder, and Starless. And you've got people like Mick Paul, Steve Roberts, Jen Wild, and even David Jackson of Vandergraaf Generator on this. What would you say makes Ice Blue, Silver Sky different from previous David Cross Band releases?
It's the first kind of experiment that I've done. It's the first time I kind of set out with an idea to see what happened. Usually I just follow whatever whatever's going on. I follow the music or whatever. But I kind of had this idea, which has been growing for some time, about trying to see what the people do in music.
Right.
Because, we think we're making the music here, and we kind of, we write songs and we practice and we perform and we do all these great things, and it's lovely. It's wonderful to be a musician, to have that experience. But I was trying to dig down a bit into what that experience was, and what the relationship somehow between those actions, that act of being a musician, and the music was. All right, so I said that the whole idea was to kind of foreground the people. All right, so what we did was we looked at what we were doing as a kind of set, as a stage show at the time when we wanted to record this, and we took the people who were performing it, and then we tried to represent try to get as much of those people into this as I possibly could. We hadn't. I'd recorded, Exiles and Starless before, but I hadn't recorded them with Gillian Wilde singing, and he's somebody who has an extraordinary vocal range, and really, powerful emotional delivery. He's a fantastic singer, and I had never recorded on these things before, and I wanted to see. So first thing is, what difference does it make if you're playing with different people?
Right.
What comes out of it. So it was all about that. How can I get the people, right to the front, and what impact will they have if I do that? That was the question I was asking.
Interesting.
That's what this album is about.
That's great. Did you enjoy the new process?
Well, like all new things, I kind of went forwards and backwards all the time. As the idea started to solidify, I got very enthusiastic about it, as I always do. I like ideas, basically.
Right.
And I and I was quite enthusiastic. But of course, as soon as you actually start doing it, you think, well, that's not so good, is it? And you think, or maybe this isn't going to work. So all the doubt setting. So I enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it.
That's great.
You go forwards and backwards all the time, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, no confidence. Confident. No confidence.
I'm going to pull up the album art again as I talk about that. The cover really fits the title itself. Was originally, of course, in the lyrics to Starless. Were there other words that were clear? Were these words a clear choice for the title, or were there other lyric snippets or title ideas? How'd you go about the titling process?
Well, the working title for this album was actually In Transit. We even took a lot of photographs. Transit is in transit van is you know, a van you can use to transport musicians and people and
Right.
tools around the place. So you know, I took some photos, you know, of us in the transit van, and they had this whole theme of traveling, and we were kind of going down that road. But somehow that kind of just as we started to actually make the music and focus on the people, all that stuff started to drift out the window, and it became much more about the engagement with the music and the kind of relationships between the sound that people make and the sound that the world makes, and what comes out as music, and what's the difference between all these things is one of the questions that came up. You know, so you get a little, we had the four of us standing around talking together. What's the difference between standing around talking together and standing around making music together? You know, there is a difference. But is
Yeah.
there? You know, if you listen to the kind of if you stop worrying about the sense of the words and you just listen to the music of the words, you know, you start to get a sense of the way that the music comes out of people as well. So there are kind of clues there about, you know, about how people generate music, I think. And you know, it is true that it comes from somewhere kind of quite deep within. You know, what's on the surface may have nothing to do with it. You know, we can be saying, "Oh, I really like talking to you guys tonight," and if inside you're feeling, "I don't want to be here. I want to be somewhere else," you know, that's what's going to come through.
We've all been there.
The truth, you know, will out. You know,
What I
yeah.
love about that analogy, David, excuse my cat. Thank you
Oh,
so much.
hello. Very
What I love
beautiful.
about thanks, that analogy is there is such a similarity between people standing around talking and people standing around music because A, they're both storytelling in a sense, and
Yeah,
B,
yes,
they are conversations. Music between the different instruments is a
yes,
conversation. So I totally get that. That's neat.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I kind of got interested in that a long time ago. I did a thing called Beckett music in the, oh, I hate to think when, it must have been the 80s, I guess, uh, in London. There was a Samuel Beckett um, festival on. And what I did was I just took his, I started with something very simple. I just took this thing called Play, this very short play that you've written, and I just did it with coloured pencils. I just I just drew graphs for how long each person spoke, and
Oh,
and
interesting.
a different colour for each person, and then I just got musicians just to play that, and that was very interesting because you know the underlying music was actually written by Beckett, who was you know very much using language and very much you know enjoyed the language, but
Right.
also what was coming through was how much music he made. You know, a lot of it was rhythmic, and it's to do with the different how long people speak for, how long they keep quiet for, whether they're
Right.
listening or not. You know, all
Yeah.
these things. So I kind of had an interest kind of a long time ago in this, and it was kind of it started to kind of it was nice to have the opportunity to really try it out with you know with a group of people that I knew well. Yeah, so it was good.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I forgot what question you asked me, Dad. I don't
No,
know if
no, it
I.
was great. Yeah.
yeah. I find it fascinating how, because of a mixture of things, the lyrics, the titles, the music, the
Mm,
album cover, the production, even the sound bites, of the bird sounds and the atmosphere of space it feels like we're in. It's easy for a listener, speaking personally at least, to imagine this music taking place on a sort of sea voyage, some parts under like a night sky.
yeah.
Would you say that the narrative of an album is a collaboration between the musicians and the listeners in that sense? What's your perspective on that?
Well, very much. Yeah. I think. Yeah, I think we underestimate the list and a great risk. It's really really important. I mean, it's you know it's kind of obvious in when you're in live situations, but it's also as you pointed out, it's there within recordings as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know there is it's a kind of I think what something I think that what I've learned is that something that the impulse to kind of music, if you want, kind of starts inside somebody, and then there's a kind of noise that comes out, but that somehow that manages to translate this kind of more primal impulse to somebody else. But with them, it may not trigger anything like the same images. It may trigger quite different images, and another set of feelings. So it's kind of sharing something at a very, very fundamental level with other people, and triggering things in other people, which may have quite different outcomes. But there are kind of archetypes, aren't there? And I don't know. There are certain ideas that are very hard to avoid, and one of those is to do with a ship at sea, and it is to do with shipwreck, and that's one of the core ideas in this piece. We had for a long time. We've been playing this song "Calamity." It's an old song from the DCB written by a previous member called John Dillon, and it's a fabulous song. And it's basically an analogy. It takes a shipwreck as an analogy for the kind of a relationship at the end of a relationship. I mean, some lovely lines in it. But that is kind of echoed by. I also looked at Starless, and Starless is a line from Under Milk Wood by Dylan Thomas. So I also started looking at that play, and indeed, lifted lines from that play and put those into Starless now. And also they kind of are hiding earlier in the album as well.
Yeah.
And those that's all about shipwreck. It's all about those who've died at sea and talking offshore. There's the captain talking to the crew and the crew to him, and people having memories and guilt feelings from the past. These are ghosts talking from the sea. So that whole thing of being at sea is very, very strong there. I grew up next to the sea. It frightens the hell out of me.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, then I have to ask you this. Your band performed on Cruise to the Edge.
Yes.
What memories do you have from that? Good, not so good, or indifferent? Along with, I'm sure you've got a comment about the wind, because after you talk about this, I'll show a clip of you guys playing outside. And it's funny, your music is blowing like backwards. And at one point your eyes get real big. And I'm wondering myself, what happened there? Like, did something blow over, or did someone blow overboard? Like, thankfully it wasn't
all the music blew away. The music blew away. I had nothing left. So
what was that experience like?
Well, it was terrifying, and then it was kind of exhilarating, really, because actually, I did remember it all, so it was fine. I think I still tend to use, to have it as a prop on. It's a psychological prop more than anything else. If it's there, I don't forget anything. But
and if it's not,
I worry that if it's not there, I'm going to forget everything. But actually, it doesn't matter anyway. If it's gone, it's gone. You've just got to play something, or just shut up if you can't think of anything.
But no one will know, because whatever you do in that situation, it's that live version,
Yes, it is.
It's that iteration, period.
Yeah. I'm only just kind of learning this, actually, as I make more and more mistakes.
But they're not mistakes, they're new discoveries. They're new discoveries, David.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
But I suddenly realised, I was making we were playing the beginning of Lark's Tongues in Poland and earlier this year, and I'd forgotten to put my in-ears on, and so because I could just hear something from the beginning, and I thought, oh, well, it's a bit quiet, but it's okay. And then when I started, I realised I didn't have anybody else. I couldn't hear anything, it's me vaguely, and so I was desperately trying to keep time, and there was, I think, one gap where I could quickly turn the monitor on from the thing at my waist. When it came in, I was a good half a bar out with everybody else.
Just a little more syncopated, that's all.
Yeah, the syncopated version of Lark's Tongues. So it was a pretty terrible piece of playing. But then I just looked at the audience, and they didn't mind at all. They were
exactly. That's what it's all about.
Quite happy to experience that.
They're watching you guys stand around and have that conversation.
That's even when the music stuff is blown away, the music itself blows the people away. So it's like
There you go.
it's
Maybe
like
you guys were
equal
playing the music.
forces type thing.
Yeah, you were causing the wind. Let's show that clip real quick. Check this out, folks. And watch for the eye-popping moment David exhibits. Watch this. This is great. It's a great clip.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wind was certainly, something was blowing.
Yeah.
Very
There's a line on this album. The wind has changed is one of the lines that we have on
great.
there.
We'll show another clip in a bit from Indoors.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah. And what you were saying about the sea, like how it can sometimes be terrifying.
Yeah.
It's funny because I love the beach. I love going to the beach and spending time there, and the ocean can be soothing. But if you get far enough into it, you really remember, wow, some really dangerous things could happen out here. So it really is, the water is something that can be soothing, but you also shouldn't underestimate it. It's something that I've learned over the years, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Plus, there are creatures.
Oh yeah, that too.
There's that.
There are tsunamis out there as well.
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
Right.
Yeah.
So this year marked the 50th anniversary of Lark's Tongues in Aspic.
Yes.
And this coming year will mark 50 years since Starless and Bible Black, as well as Red, which included the song Starless and had you on the live track Providence. How do you feel when you look back on the King Crimson music at that time?
Yeah, what's your 50-year perspective?
Well, I'm really enjoying playing it now in a way that I'm really enjoying. It's somehow from this distance, it's more comfortable. I suppose in a way, part of it is just simple, is that I've got better, so I can play it more easily. And
is there less pressure, David? Like that whole environment of why you're doing it and under what circumstance, is that a whole different picture for you?
I think there's different pressure. I think what I definitely wanted to do was find this kind of tricky balance between being true to the original concept in the original album and to the people I made the music with, who who created it, and also get myself in there and the other people in the band in there as well. So I think I've managed to do that in what we're doing live now. And there are surprising things. I get real joy from playing Easy Money. It just is such a wonderful track now. And I play more. I didn't play much, I don't think, on the album, but I play more on that now. I do a kind of solo on that, and I really just love that. And the way we play it is just so free that I just love it, because it's just like it's just like a kind of framework, just dangling there, and you just play anything you want, and as long as it's kind of from the frame somewhere,
right,
it will work. And sometimes you can go right away from the frame. You could leave the whole piece and never come back. Sometimes we did that in Crimson.
Just drift off.
Either didn't finish, or we never got to where we were supposed to get to.
That's funny.
We sort of planned a bridge from one thing to another, but they get lost along the way.
Right.
So it's kind of it has that kind of freedom about it, and why I like that one particularly, I think, is because it's not total freedom. The thing's ticking away. It's got to have all the words in. It's got to have the tune in. It's got to start. It's got to finish, and it's got to have these holes in it as well to make it work. It's got to have
Right.
gaps in it. So there's this kind of this is like a simple set of rules that make it work, and not complicated rules, simple rules. As long as you follow those, then you're completely free.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't. I just never appreciated that at the time. It was just worked. I knew what I had to do my bit, but I never had this sort of joy of being in it like I have now. So it's a
Interesting.
kind of a sort of just experience over the years. I feel more comfortable with that now. I love doing exiles. I love the way I play it now. I don't particularly like the way I played it then, so I prefer that now.
That's
Um,
great.
Talking drum again. I do slightly different things now
Hmm.
than I did then. Then it was kind of it was kind of a more anxious affair then.
Ah,
Talking drum. It was more kind of journey into the unknown. Whereas for now, having been down that road a number of times, it's not such a strange road to me, and it's therefore something I can relax with much more. So I think your original guess was probably right. I think it's more relaxing now.
yeah.
It's like I seem to have more time than I did then.
Ah,
I've
that
got more
makes
time
sense.
to kind of take in the view while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And and I really like that. And I'm playing with good people, and who can see it the same way. So it's no, it's there's a real joy in doing it now. And I love it.
Great.
Yeah,
I have a couple King Crimson questions for you, David. But
yeah,
before
sure.
I ask those, Steve, can you read the comment by Doug Kieran, please?
Yeah, so Doug Curran says, I first met David with Crimson on their 74 tour in Columbus, Ohio. The show blew my young mind. What violin and pedal did he use on those Crimson shows?
I think it was a Big Muff fuzz box. I had a kind of. I think I was still using I think it was a DeArmond volume tone pedal because I was concerned about having too much high end on the violin. It would get too
Mm.
screechy. So it was one of those pedals that operated up and down for volume, but you moved it right for treble and left for bass. It was
Oh,
quite
wow.
interesting.
Like a sideways wah wah.
Yeah, yes, it was kind of like that. But
Interesting.
it didn't have that sort of wah wah
Yeah.
effect. It was just as like a tone control really. But it was quite interesting to use because you had that motion sideways as well.
That's
But,
interesting. I don't remember anything like that. That's neat.
no, it probably probably broke all the time. I can't remember if I used it till the end of my time with Crimson, but I certainly part of the time I used that. But it was
Awesome.
quite, in the end, I kind of decided you can have too many things doing that. You can have too much control sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's just best just to play it and
Yeah.
sort it out either in the way you play or let somebody sort it out at the other end.
Right.
But that was quite interesting, and I used a Crybaby wah wah I think with it
Hmm.
as well. That's all I can remember from. That's probably Columbus,
Cool.
Ohio.
Thanks for the
Yeah.
question, Doug. My two King Crimson's questions are this. One, of course, do you have any interesting stories? Is there anyone you want to tell on? For instance, is there anything about Mr. Fripp that you could tell us that would be a fun anecdote that people might be surprised by?
I don't. I don't think so. I mean, the only thing that people talk about him as being kind of tough and a hard taskmaster and stuff like that, but it certainly wasn't like that at that time. It
Great.
was very much, it was very much a kind of democratic as far as you can be, with big egos and stuff around. But it
Right.
was, we made decisions and stuff between us where we could, and he had a great sense of humour, and he still does have a good sense of humour. But sometimes you don't see it so much.
Yeah.
But no, he used to do silly things like quite silly things like go up behind people and blow talcum powder through their hair and things like that. Really awful. So
That's
there's a great
exactly what
cloud
we
of
were looking
talcum
for.
powder.
Yeah, that's funny.
But, but that we were only in our early 20s, for goodness sake.
Yeah, what would you
Yeah.
expect, right?
Didn't know much better.
Yeah. Do you
No,
have
he was a good laugh, and he had good sense of humor, and he was always very generous on stage as well.
Yeah.
I don't know how he got on after that, but he was, he would always, listen. It's always listening. It's like a bit like, such a joy. I played, the last 2 days, when was it? Wednesday and Thursday last week with Tony Lev. We were doing gigs with Stickmen, with my band Stickmen.
Yeah.
And we did 2 encores. So I got to stand next to Tony Levin again and play with him. I did a tour with Stickmen once, and he's one of these people also who just is in the moment so much on stage, but he has this sort of generous spirit with it as well. So whenever you play, you glance over and you know that he's listening to you, and he's playing to you as well. And he's with you all the time,
Yeah.
He's never off thinking about what he's going to eat later. He's actually
nice.
there.
Yeah.
And
it's a very Rick Wakeman thing.
And Robert was always like that. He was, if you did something, he would notice. He wouldn't be like getting ready for his next solo and thinking about that. If you did something, he would notice that, good or bad.
Would you get like a verbal report card along each tour after each performance?
No.
Okay.
Didn't give any either. I think we're all hard enough on ourselves to not need
Right.
a report.
And I didn't mean insinuating that it had to be negative. I was just curious how he.
Oh, I see. Right.
People giving each other props and like, oh, you
yes.
did so
7
well
out
on
of 10
this,
for
and
solos and
like
things
affirmations.
Yeah.
No, it was all all kind of normal. None of that crap.
Yeah. And do you have a piece of work with King Crimson that you worked on that you're most fond of or proud of, and maybe they're not the same?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it? I don't think anybody's ever asked me that before. I don't know. I'd have to start listening to it all again. I suppose. I suppose Trio is just on the Starless album. On the Starless album has always been special to me because of the way, because it kind of came out of exhaustion, really.
Oh.
It came out of being very tired, being late at night, and it's a kind of an example of just getting out of the way and just letting the music come through. It's almost like like these zombies talk sometimes,
Lurching along.
Yeah, they can't move their lips, but still a voice comes out.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like that. We were so tired, and Bill was even too tired to even play anything, I think.
Oh, wow.
At all on it. And just somehow that meant that we got out of the way, and that allowed the music to come through. And it's a silly little thing. It's just a silly little tune, but it just has the ring of truth about it, and always has had to me. It's just kind of it's just a little piece of it's kind of it's a kind of reaching. It's almost like reaching back into childhood or something. It's like trying to just reach for something kind of beautiful and just about finding it. About finding
interesting.
it. I
Yeah.
think it's lovely in that way. Starless as a sort of construct, I think Starless is my favourite thing because it kind of manages to get bits of everybody into it.
Yeah, indeed.
And in that way, I think it's an extraordinary piece, and I do love playing that.
It sounds great on this new album too. The production and it just sounds so nice. Great.
Yes,
job.
I really enjoy this. It was kind of played from the heart, and then we just kept trying to find ways of how can we, you could feel the the kind of intensity in it, and we just
Yeah.
finally found a few ways to just push it a little bit further. Just the last note or chord here, just to make it even more powerful. And so, yeah, I was pleased with the way that came out in the end. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we also enjoyed reading your contribution to the recent John Wetton biography, An Extraordinary Life. It sounds like John was
I
very
can't
easy
remember
to
what I
talk
said
to.
now. What did I say? I can't
No,
remember.
you said nice things like,
Oh, did I?
you
Oh,
know,
good.
yeah, working with him and um, having conversations with him. Like,
All
yeah.
right. Yeah. No, it was. Yeah, he was very special, and I think I didn't realize what a good singer he was. When I was in the band. I
Yeah.
think kind of took, for some reason, just sort of took that for granted. Or he's singing the songs. I didn't, I just didn't really get, how difficult it was that he was doing and how naturally he did it. The way that he managed to deliver songs, I thought was, with retrospect, with hindsight, as I look back at it,
Yeah. While
as the
playing
years went
bass,
go
while
on.
playing bass pedals. I mean,
Yes,
he was quite a
extraordinary.
musician.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I knew he was a great musician, but I never realized how hard it was to find somebody like that
Yeah.
who could just, deliver a song and, just keep it just the right amount of kind of musical, the right amount of personal, and it's just like a magic trick. It's really good.
Yeah. You could really
Um,
feel
but
his heart.
I sort of grew to this. One of the things I grew to love over the years. Really, I didn't really kind of get it at first. I don't know why. It's kind of I just maybe I just wasn't listening carefully. But I really appreciated it more and more as time went on. Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think maybe there were some other people who were in that same boat. Like maybe it took them several years to realize just how great of a singer John was, like as his
Yes,
career progressed.
yeah, maybe, yeah, and I don't know why, because it was all very natural as you look back on
Yeah.
it. Just went up to the mic and sang, and it all just came out, apparently. But
Yeah.
um, but yes, it certainly took me a while to appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you recorded an album. I'll show some more artwork. This is also a great album that you did with Peter Banks, the album that became Crossover, and some of it was
Oh
recorded
yes.
before Peter's passing and then finished and released in 2020. Can you talk a bit about that experience?
Yeah, that was. I couldn't do anything for a while because it was very sad. Um,
Right.
Mm,
that I had these record. I couldn't listen to them really. Because he died. Sorry, died much too young, and
Yeah.
yeah.
uh, it was very hard to kind of approach them. But then when I did, once we started working on them, then it became a kind of, well, in one way, a kind of act of respect, I suppose, for Peter. To kind of um, bring to life what we'd done. I mean, they were just kind of draft ideas really that we'd recorded and around here in this room. We can't this
Hmm.
blurry room.
What was he
But
like to work with, David?
oh, he was a joy. He was a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Absolutely lovely. Had a kind of uh, it's almost a naivety actually that he had that was really nice. It was
Mm,
really touching. We'd done some gigs with Peter and his band. We did, I think there were three bands, and we did a few gigs in the UK. And I remember the first time he came up to me and he was telling me about what he was doing with his band. He said, we're improvising everything. We don't know what we're going to do, And it was just he was just so excited about it. It was just lovely. Um, and and always it was like that. He was just he would hear something, and you just see his eyes light up. And if he played it, he'd do it again, or he'd kind of wait for me to do something again. It was just a joy, to play with him. And I just wish I'd been able to do more actual playing with him.
Yeah.
Which we'd found the time to do that. So trying to bring that, we couldn't bring him back to life, but to try and kind of to make visible, what we've been doing with contributions from the other musicians was fantastic.
Yeah.
So I really loved having that opportunity. It's kind of deepened my understanding of him a bit, I think.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
I treasure, the time I did have with him.
Great.
Yeah, that's a great album crossover as well.
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah. And obviously another Yes member you've worked with is Bill Bruford and King Crimson, but on crossover you also have other Yes musicians, including Jeff Downs, Tony Kaye, Jay Shellen is now a member, Billy Sherwood, and Oliver Wakeman. What was it like having them all involved in one way or another on that?
Oh, well, I was totally overwhelmed, really. They're just all amazing musicians, with fantastic reputations and made fantastically musical contributions. So it was just like kind of having one birthday after another,
Yeah.
It was all kind of done remote. Well, actually, Jeremy Stacey, I recorded in a studio here in London. So he was here, but he was not a Yes man, was he? So no, I think all the others came remotely, and it was just like opening presents. Every time they arrived, so oh yeah, never thought of that. Yes, how could they?
That's neat. Yeah.
Other lovely ideas coming through, and it was just really lovely the way that people just said yes.
Yeah. No pun intended.
But it was a joy.
Yeah.
That it was just very positive stuff, and
That's great.
It was just lovely to be part of it. That's great.
Awesome. Let's show another video of you on Cruise to the Edge, indoors this time, away from the wind. Check this out, folks. This is great. I just love it. Just love that.
Yeah. And going back to Ice Blue, Silver Sky, I know earlier we talked about the King Crimson song that you're most proud of. Is the answer different on Ice Blue, Silver Sky? Like, what was your favorite piece to work on for that one, if it's different at all?
I really love Calm Again, actually.
Oh.
It's I think it's one of the poppiest things I've ever done, and I don't know, it just gave me a lot of joy working on it. It was fun. It was inspired by the Bee Gees, which is not much of the stuff which they're great, but it's not much of my stuff you could ever trace back to the Bee Gees.
Right.
So it was. I really enjoyed that. That was something different to do. I liked a load of stuff. I loved David Jackson's contribution to Nowhere.
Mm.
It's a track. It was an instrumental track that David and I did on an album called Another Day, and it was called Going Nowhere. The track there, and actually we envisaged it as a song as well, and we got some words written for it, but we never we never performed. We never recorded it. We've done it live. We did it in Athens and had a whole audience singing "Going Nowhere" and stuff. But on this album, it kind of shifted again because we had different words by the singer Ginian, and I just wanted to just get the feel. It's a sopranino that David plays at the end, a very small saxophone, and he just plays that with such poignancy. It's so pierces my heart every time I hear it. It's so lovely, and I just wanted to let that come through, and I think that was a real joy for me to, because we've done work together over the years, and we've had lots of laughs together. We've done lots of funny stuff together, and and rocky stuff. But it breaks my heart with that sopranino. It's such a lovely sound. So I think he delivered the goods with that, and I think that it captured him at his best on that. So I was very proud to have that. But I enjoyed all of it, to be honest. I mean, I love our new beginning to Exiles. We kind of shifted that around a bit, and so I think it's all good fun. And of course, the fun never stops because there's always something going on. The tracks are kind of linked together, and there's a kind of thread running through all of that as well. So yeah, no, it was all great.
That's cool. Can you?
I was in charge of the kind of link bits, most one stage. So we were sort of taking it in turns to mix different bits, and I had to keep playing with the whole thing, the whole album. I was kind of messing with that all the time. So I guess the whole thing is really in my head almost as a piece on its own,
For those, David, who aren't familiar with your band members, can you say a few words about each one and give the instrumentation, please?
Yeah, on this album,
it's a great band.
Yeah, on this album, it's Mick Paul. I think I've got to mention first. He's kind of from for a long time. He's been he's been a co-producer with me of the albums that we've done together, and we've co-written stuff in the past. He's an absolutely fantastic bass player. Extraordinarily underrated, thank goodness, because he's still working with me. I don't even be working with me. People really, realise how good he was. He's a brilliant bass player. He's a good singer, and he's got everything good that happens with the band kind of starts from him. He's kind of a real foundation of it. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't have lasted this long. With this band, if he hadn't been there, if we hadn't been and clicked and been able to work together, so he's key.
Nice.
Ginian Wild, who's the singer on this album, is when we in the 2000s I had this idea definitely of a big voice, and we did blind auditions where people were not allowed to send in any information about themselves. No biogs, just a recording of them singing Exiles or something like that.
Wow, I like that. That's neat.
And we just went on the voices, and there were two that stood out, and we've worked with both of them. One was Jonathan Casey, who was calling himself Arch Stanton at that time, for reasons I never understood when he first came in. And the other one was Ginian Wild, and they were both fantastic. And we've worked with both of them over the years. And they're both there because they're stunning singers. Ginian is kind of continued from the time when I met him, he continued to extend his range. So his at the top end of his voice, has grew really accomplished during this time. Mm. And we tried to make use of that on this album. But he really is an extraordinary, powerful singer. And he chills, it sends shivers down my spine whenever I listen to him. Yeah. Steve Roberts is a different kind of drummer from anybody else I've worked with. I think he's very much a kind of improvising, flowing drummer. He's done some fantastic cymbal rolls on this.
Yeah, I've
I know it's a
noticed
funny
that.
thing to pick out, but they are. I think they're the best I've heard. They're so controlled from way back here. Controlled from inside him somehow. It's not. It's not the. It's
Yeah.
not the individual motions of the beaters of the sticks. It comes from here. It's like singing. A long notes, and he's got that overall sense of flow that I think is really contributed something different to this album. And that's it. Is it Mick, Jim, Steve? Yes, and David Jackson. I've talked about, I think, already.
Yeah.
So those are the people on the album, and
Awesome.
they are a joy to be with and a joy to work with.
Are you going to be going out on the road in 2024 with this?
Oh, we are. Yeah, we're out on the road now. We've just finished it. Not with Ginian and Steve. During COVID, we had to change because they hadn't been vaccinated, so we had to get other people in. So we went back to the other blind auditions thing that we had, and also went back to the Sheila Maloney on keyboards. And she's somebody I started the whole band with years and years ago. We had a thing called They Came from Plymouth, which was the beginning, and then that was a kind of jazz band, really.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of that. I started to kind of get a hankering for some, electric bass and stuff again, and then we kind of sort of shifted across, and it ended up as the David Cross Band after that, and she was part of that. Then she left and developed a career in music and in education and stuff like that, traveling all over the world actually doing stuff. But then she came back at that time, so we had. A different band for the road, and it changes. It changes all the time, depending on what we want to do.
Right. Coming to the U.S.?
Yeah, we should be starting in Quebec City, I think, in September 24.
Okay.
So we'll be planning to do the East Coast September, October 24,
Okay.
and the West in the beginning of 2025, sometime 2025, and then maybe back again, or maybe down South America after that, later in the year, later in 25. So yeah, all going well. Yeah,
that's great. Well, thank you so much for taking time to join us. After we say goodbye to the audience, please hang on the line with us for just a moment. But we really appreciate it, and everybody following us on Yesshift and watching the simulcast on Drum Talk TV. Thanks for following Steve and I and our guest today. First time offender, his first hazing, the amazing, legendary David Cross. And Steve, tell everyone where they can find us.
Yeah, so people can find us on facebook.com/Yesshift or youtube.com/@Yesshift, anchor.fm/Yesshift if you just want audio, or just search Yesshift on your podcast app. You'll probably find us. And you can also write to us at yesshiftpodcast@gmail.com.
Please be nice, though.
Yeah, feedback, suggestions, and whatnot. And yeah, listen to this music. On Crossover, there's even a song called Upshift. So listen to that album. I listened to Ice Blue Silver Sky. It's an incredibly great album. I'll listen to this stuff, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everybody. And what's that, David? Yeah.
You've been very kind to me.
Thanks. Well, we love your music.
Right, I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for decades of really just great music. Oh, one last little thing. I've been wanting to tell you this since I first started listening to the album. I'm pointing there because it's right there. Thanks for keeping real progressive music alive. That's like the first thing I got out of this album. There's a lot of really great newer neo-prog and things like that that's been around, but I heard this and it really just took me back, but yet with modern production. So it's really great that stuff's alive. Growing up in Los Angeles and chasing the record deal in the early 80s and a prog band in the early 80s, when the biggest thing in America was new wave and hairspray spandex metal, and we're in a prog band. It's like, what the heck were we thinking?
Yes.
And
what were you thinking?
Yeah, I don't know. It's, I don't know. We just and that dried up in America for a long time. So
Yeah.
it's great that, in this day and age we can access music from everywhere, and that you're keeping this whole genre alive. So thank you.
Thank you very much. That's very kind. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks everybody. We'll see you again soon. Thanks everyone.